Good morning. It's October 3rd, and we're starting our planning board meeting. Before we get involved in regulatory affairs this morning, I just want to make a couple announcements. Just happy to announce that on Tuesday, October 1st, the planning board met with the board of Education. It was our annual meeting, a very, very productive dinner beforehand, and we had a board meeting afterwards, and we talked about many items around collaboration between the planning board, the planning staff, and the Board of Education. So, and one key item that we celebrated was a memorandum of understanding that we signed earlier in the year that talked about how the Board of Education and the Planning Department work together. So that was very, very positive. And then second, yesterday was the fifth and last of the council's listening sessions on the board's recommended attainable housing strategies. The last one was a virtual one, and it had over 300 participants, and so the big piece, it was the last of five. Each of them were highly attended, which is great. The purpose was to get community input on the board's attainable housing strategies, and the next steps was for the council to collate all of those comments and then get back on next steps. So that was very, very, very positive, and we're happy that the council's always able to reach out and have public input is very important on all the proposed policies in the county. So next, we'll start on our regulatory items for today. The first is preliminary matters. We have 6 resolutions to be adopted this morning. The first is 850 Sligo Avenue, preliminary plan number 1, 2019-009B, MCPB number 24-082. The second is Reserve at Strathmore Square, site plan 8/2021-012A, MCPB number 24087. The third is PLD Lot 44, 4702 West Virginia Avenue, sketch plan number 32019-006B, MCPB number 24-083. The fourth is PLD Lot 44, 4702 West Virginia Avenue, site plan number 8/2024-0140, MCPB number 24-084. The fifth is PLD Lot 44, 4702 West Virginia Avenue, Forest Conservation Plan number F20240720, MCPB 24-085. And the last is PLD Lot 44, 4702 West Virginia Avenue, preliminary plan number 2/2024-0110, MCPB number 24-086. Do I have a motion for approval of these 6 resolutions?
Move to approve the resolutions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The ayes have it 5-0. The next item is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes this morning, minutes of September 12th, 2024, and September 19th, 2024. Do I have a motion for approval of these 2 minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it 5-0. Next, we have 1 record plat to review and to approve this morning. It's subdivision plat number 2/2024-0320, James E. Broadhurst subdivision, Alta Vista, where staff is recommending approval. Do I have a motion for approval?
Yeah, move to approve subdivision plat 22024-30320.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And next item is regulatory extension requests. We have 5 this morning. The first is Kirk Farm preliminary plan number 720240020, regulatory review extension request number 1. The second is Red Mill remote ATM install site plan number 820240020, regulatory extension request number 1. The third is Fraley Farm East, preliminary plan number 120240080, extension request number 2. The fourth is Hassanian Residence, preliminary plan number 120230140, extension request number 2. The fifth is Loman Plaza, preliminary plan number 120240100, site plan number 8202400120, and Forest Conservation Plan F2024060, regulatory extension request number 2. And that is just to extend from November 7th to November 21st, 2024. And so for all 5 of these, where staff is requesting approval of the requested extensions, do I have a motion for approval?
Yeah, move to approve all the regulatory extension requests.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, that's 5-0. And next, we'll go to item number 6. Yes, item number 6 is special exception major modification number S2659A and Forest Conservation Plan number F2024080, Bennett Creek Animal Hospital public hearing, where staff is recommending approval of Forest Conservation Plan with conditions and transmittal of comments to the hearing examiner for special exception major modification. And this morning, we have Mark Beal from the planning staff. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. We're going to switch over and then start this. Thank you. Good morning. We're on item number 8. No, I'm sorry, item number 6, special exception major modification number S2659A and Forest Conservation Plan number F20240830, Bennett Creek Animal Hospital, where staff is recommending approval of the Forest Conservation Plan with conditions and transmittal of comments to the hearing examiner for special exception major modifications. And this morning, we have Mark Beal of the planning staff presenting this case. Thank you.
Good morning, thank you. For the record, Mark Beal, zoning planner for Up County Planning Division. Today, it's my pleasure to bring to you the special exception major modification for Bennett Creek Animal Hospital. The number is S-2659-A, as well as we're bringing you the Forest Conservation Plan Amendment F20240830. So to start off with, we have a little clarification and corrections. The total addition for the project is 4,833 square feet. The first floor, which is where like operations take place, examination rooms, that sort of stuff, is 2,767 square feet. And then the lower level basement is just for storage only, and that's 2,066 square feet. And I had stated in the staff report that the applicant owned the neighbor next door, and I was looking at some old information, so I apologize for that. So we have a special exception modification. So this falls under the old 2004 code because that's where it was originally approved. The legacy provisions in the 2014 code allow expansions and changes per the 2014 code, and that's why we're going through a special exception major modification versus a conditional use or conditional use modification. The applicant files the modification with the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals kicks it to the hearing examiner, OZA, and then OZA refers it to us for review and recommendations by the planning board, and from that point forward, it's just like a regular conditional use. So the subject property is located at 22416 Frederick Road in Clarksburg. The neighborhood is R200, and primarily residential zoning. The area to the south is actually Rocky Hill Middle School, and the area to the northwest is a place of worship. And there were no recognized special exceptions or conditional uses in the neighborhood. So the subject property is a recorded plat, recorded lot. It consists of a little over 87,000 square feet and is an existing veterinary hospital that was approved in 2007. And as you can see, the main entrance to the property is off of Frederick Road. So the proposal for this major modification outlined in green on the right-hand side, you can see there's a proposed two-story addition or basement addition with a first floor above it. They're increasing the staff members from 10 to 17, and they're increasing their veterinarians from 3 to 5. There'll be no changes in hours, and you can see towards the southern part of the page, they are increasing the parking lot. All noticing requirements have been met, and staff has not received any correspondence from the community. The property falls in the 1994 Clarksburg Master Plan, and there were no specific recommendations for this property. This addition will not create more than 50 trips for the property, as well as the existing network can accept this addition. And you can see there's a 10-foot side path along the front of the property already. At this time, I'll turn it over to Josh Penn for the environmental review.
Good morning. For the record, Josh Penn with the Up County Planning Division. The plan before you does meet all the requirements of Chapter 22A. This is a final Forest Conservation Plan amendment. They are removing about 0.37 acres of easement to be mitigated both on-site and off-site, 0.23 acres on-site, 0.14 acres off-site. The off-site ratio will be, the off-site will be at 2-to-1 for a total of 0.2 acres that needs to be mitigated for. That's why I've added condition number 5. It was to clarify the plans were a little bit indistinct in determining that the off-site is 2-to-1 to be met. So that's why we added condition 5. Also, there is a forest conservation tree variance. You'll see that tree 2 here is a 30-inch black oak that is being removed as part of this. It is necessary for the stormwater management for the addition. The addition is about only place it could go to expand the business. So there was an unwarranted hardship, and they are mitigating for the loss of the tree with 3 3-inch caliber trees for a total of 9 inches of mitigation on site.
Thank you, Josh. So for the findings,
Can I just ask a question here about what Josh just said? Is that, or do you want me to wait?
It's up to you.
Okay. I always have a hard time that we cut trees for stormwater management. I don't know if it was any other alternative or any kind of design that we could have done for stormwater management to save this tree.
I will let the engineer speak to the specifics of the diagrams of how the site design works, but based upon the stormwater management concept, it does appear that is where it needs to be for the addition, and the addition has to be there because it's expanding off the existing business. So
Okay, so
based
the
upon-
addition is there also?
The addition
Okay.
is to the west of the easement, then the easement area that's being removed. The easement area is where the trees are, not where the addition is. If you look here on the plans, you can kind of see here, the easement starts right at the edge of where so the addition line would be exactly over top of the easement line. So the
Okay.
easement, the addition itself is not in the easement or the existing easement, but the
Okay, let me
stormwater
just
management
make
is.
it simple question. Does the addition require to remove the tree, or the tree is required to remove just for the sake of stormwater management? That's my question.
I don't think you can separate the two in terms of that. I believe that the addition will be impacts onto the tree, and the stormwater management will provide additional impacts. I do think there will be great
Okay.
impacts either way.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Where was I? Okay, so the veterinary hospital is consistent with the master plan. It's compatible with the surrounding character of the neighborhood and will not cause undue hardship or impacts on the neighborhood. And this application meets all the requirements of the specific requirements for the conditional or the special exception use in the 2004 code, as well as the general conditions of the 2004 code. So staff is recommending transmittal of approval with conditions for veterinary hospital to the hearing examiner, as well as staff is recommending the board approve the forest conservation plan amendment. Thank you. Staff is here if you have any questions, as well as the applicant. Thank you.
Would the applicant prefer to make a presentation?
Brief comments. Yes, good morning. From the record, my name is Jody Klein. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Miller and Canby in Rockville at 200B Monroe Street in Rockville, and I represent the petitioner in this case. And I use the term petitioner because that's what we used to call them back when they were special exceptions. Ms. Pedone, would you like any more confirmation about the tree issue from the engineer, or was Mr.
No, I'm good. The bottom line was that I think if we try to save environment, the stormwater management and also trees both are important. So I was always looking at, if we have to cut trees for the sake of stormwater management, that should be the last thing we do if we have no other choice. But if you have to remove the tree for the additions, then you have to remove it. I understand that. So that was my question was. Thank you.
So I'll only say this, since we've been in operation since 2007, this is our third return to ask for expansion because it's been so successful and so popular in the Clarksburg area. So I would just simply say that all of the 8 conditions recommended for the special exception and all the 7 conditions recommended for the forest conservation plan, plus any of the clarifications that Mr. Beal made, are all acceptable to the applicant. And we'd be glad to answer any question you have if there are any.
I have no questions. Any other questions or comments from the board? If no questions or comments, yep, thank you for growing. Well, one, thank you for growing the business as the needs happen in the community. Pets are so important to folks, and thank you for doing that. So We'll do them one at a time. Do I have a motion for approval of the special exception modification number S2659A, where staff is recommending transmittal of comments to the hearing examiner for special exception and major modification?
Yeah, I'll move to approve transmitting comments to the hearing examiner.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 5-0. And then do I have a motion for approval of Forest Conservation Plan Amendment Number F20240830, where staff is recommending approval?
Yeah, move to approve the forest conservation plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We look forward.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And so we're just going to take a 2-minute break and go to item number 7, Master Plan of Highways and Transitways 2024 Technical Update, where staff is recommending provide policy direction to the planning staff. Thank you. Good morning. We're on item number 7, Master Plan of Highways and Transit Ways 2024 Technical Update, where staff is recommending for the board to provide policy directions to planning staff. And this morning, we have Sophia Aldridge of the Planning Department presenting this project. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Sophia Aldridge with the Countywide Planning and Policy Division. Today, I'm going to be presenting some information from the findings from public testimony that we've received so far, and I guess also staff direction or suggestion for the planning board to consider to address a major issue that popped up as a result of that. I always do a quick agenda, but just, we're going to talk a little bit about this testimony that was received, and then go into a little bit of detail about Mid-County Highway itself, because that is the main topic for today. We then have some options that we've developed for your consideration to address how we treat Mid-County Highway extended within the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, and then finally lead to discussion and planning board action. I will mention that I did invite 2 representatives from Montgomery County DOT, and they are not here presently. Hopefully they'll arrive shortly. So if there are questions that relate to the road itself and DOT's efforts, they hopefully will arrive in time if there are questions like that come up. So we are right now summarizing all the testimony comments we've received, and we are providing draft responses, which we will present to the planning board at work sessions later, either this month or further on. But we wanted to provide a quick summary at sort of the beginning of this meeting. To date, we have received, as part of the public hearing, 156 total comments. And on that table, you can sort of see the summary in priority order, or actually in numerical order. And 23 out of the 156 were specifically requesting that the Mid-County Highway extended be removed from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. And I will mention, out of the 23, one of those is from the county executive, Mark Elrich, and the other one is from Montgomery County Department of Transportation. So let's talk about M83. You heard a lot of at least public testimony at our last meeting at the public hearing, but I'm going to try to give you just a brief overview of the efforts that occurred in the development of M83. This is the Mid-County Highway as depicted in the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. And if you can see on the map, the yellow sections, maybe hard to see, are existing sections. There are 2 sections, one between Shady Grove Road and Montgomery Village Avenue. And there's this very short little section that connects into Germantown Road. It's only partially built. And then the rest of this is still proposed. And that includes the section from Shady Grove down to the ICC, which is also part of this entire alignment. So this was originally conceived and recommended in the Germantown Master Plan in 1967, and subsequently was added to the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways and expanded with other master plans that occurred from there on. And in around 2009, Montgomery County DOT started studying the corridor in earnest. And this is one of the great things about the master planning to capital programming process is that the planning department and the planning board does a master plan. Then Montgomery County DOT, their responsibilities are first to do facility planning, and if that project passes muster, they then move on and they look at actual design, or in the case of something like this, a corridor study. This corridor study included environmental review. There was an environmental effects report that was included as part of this. And between 2009 and 2015, a lot of interim products and decision points occurred. There's a great sort of chronology on Montgomery County DOT's website that talks about essentially from start to finish, and the finish is project suspended. And so in 2015, they did identify a preferred alternative, which is called Alternative 9A. And you can see on this map, 9 is the yellow alignment, and they're kind of overlapping, so it's a little difficult. So 9 follows along with 8. And then when you get to this brown alignment up here down close to Brink Road, 9A did this little squiggle to move over a little bit, cross Brink Road at a perpendicular, and then swing in and connect to Ridge Road directly opposite Snowden Farm Parkway.
Can you use your cursor? Is it possible to?
Sure. Oh, yes. So I'll start down here. How about now? Laser pointer? There we go. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, back up. Okay, so Alternative 9 starts down here. I believe this is down towards Shady Grove. It then comes up across Watkins Mill. And then when it gets to this point, 9A, which was the sub-alternative chosen, follows this brown line and then crosses Brink Road and then connects into Ridge Road directly opposite Snowden Farm Parkway. And the idea is essentially is that Snowden Farm Parkway then becomes part of the whole Mid-County highway network and provides this parallel connection on the north or east side of I-270. From 2015 to 2017, at the conclusion of that study, there were a lot of reviews. There certainly was a planning board review and a vote and a preference of the planning board for Alternative 9A. But no action occurred in that period, and it wasn't added to the actual capital program for advancement. It was delayed. And then sometime in 2016, Montgomery County DOT undertook a transit-focused study, which they called the supplemental report, and they looked at 3 scenarios. One of those scenarios, which I'm showing here today, Scenario 1, proposed a transit-focused solution with no M83. And so what you'll see here is M83, which should be in this area, is not present at all. And the assumptions were that there were certain capital improvements, which are shown in blue. There's the 355 BRT program, which has been part of the county's plan since 2013. And then there are a series of intersection improvements, which are shown in little blue dots, which again may be hard to see, and that's Alternative 2. And then a series of corridor-focused improvements called Alternative 5, which occurred along a section of Ridge Road right here, and then along 355, and then down to, I think this is Montgomery Village Avenue, et cetera. So it was quite a change, and I had just joined the commission at that point, and my understanding is that the take from DOT, which they could speak to when they're here, is that this satisfied the needs that they had originally looked at for the M83 road, and so the M83 project, they were not going to be pursuing it anymore. And I will note that the 355 BRT project is in the capital program. It is advancing, and many of the improvements in this Scenario 1 is actually part of DOT's capital program. After the study was completed in early 2017, the council took it up for consideration, and later that year, in October, they issued Council Resolution 18-957, called Transportation Solutions in Northeast Montgomery County. And this specifically directed the planning board to, and I'm going to read it, and I probably should have blown it up. Not to assume additional road capacity for the northern extension of Mid-County Highway when calculating the land use transportation balance in a future master plan, including but not limited to the plans that were currently going on at the time. This step ensures that any new development allowed under these plans does not rely on the northern extension of Mid-County Highway while retaining the right-of-way for this extension in these plans. So it was, I would say, a half measure, but certainly a measure that was directing the planning department to not take it out of the plan, but just assume it's not there. And so in everything that we work on from that point forward, including current plans that we're now doing in Clarksburg and studies we're doing in Germantown, we looked at the transportation network, we did travel demand modeling, assuming M83 is not there. And it's worth noting that this project, M83, used to be in WashCog's regional network and long-range plan. It is no longer in there, and it was removed at the specific request of Montgomery County. And that was probably like 3 years ago, I think. So that's that. So as part of our due diligence with this master plan designated, the planning department has been trying to preserve the transportation corridor rights of way. There are reservations, dedications, and easements that have been obtained for Mid-County Highway Extended. We have a web map which the public can access, which shows that, provides some summary details for each of the sections. And what you will notice, I'm going to turn the laser pointer on again, is that there are some sections where there are gaps, and all of those gaps have green backgrounds, which means it's parkland. So the idea is that essentially all of the right-of-way is there. It would need to be designated within the parkland and conveyed from park to right-of-way. But this is something that, because of the master planning process, through development review, through master planning and other actions, we do have all of this right-of-way sitting, waiting for something. So the key question is how do we address this? So far, we've received considerable support for removal. We've received one comment expressing a desire for it to continue to be part of the master plan of highways and transitways, and certainly more focus from a public perspective of getting built. However, we do feel like the public process that we had was by the scope of work was limited to not include consideration of removing this facility. And so folks who are happy that it's in would likely not testify. And people who want it out, they would continue to testify. So we feel like a full public hearing, the opportunity for everyone who has an interest really wasn't provided. And so we have some options to consider. The first option is to sort of continue as we're going, which is to do not remove or consider removing Mid-County Highway Extended from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways as it is beyond the original scope of the project and proceed with the current version. The second option is to direct planning staff to modify the scope of the master plan to include consideration of Mid-County Highway Extended and to conduct additional public engagement and hold another public hearing. And the third option is to consider removing Mid-County Highway from the master plan of highways based on the council's 2017 resolution and the testimony already received without the need to hold a public hearing. I will mention that option one also could be considered, it's almost like saying we're not going to touch this, and if the council wants to remove it, they could do that. That's option one. Or we're not going to do it. So those are the three options. They're not equal options, and we as planning staff, we don't recommend specifically one option, which I'll get to in a second. So the selection of the options will impact the timeline for this master plan. The selection of option 2 will require an extension of the schedule. We have already identified dates, one for public engagement, and then the planning board hearing number 2, collection of comments through the end of the comment period, and then rescheduled work sessions, essentially 2 months later than was originally planned. We still think we can get this, essentially back to the council before summer of next year. So the delay is long, but it's not something that's going to, impact the busyness of the schedule because it is a CIP year. So staff has the following recommendations. The first is we strongly recommend against option 3. Removing it from the master plan was not part of the approved scope of work. So affected communities may be unaware of this testimony, and from a public engagement perspective, it is important that these communities have the opportunity to be informed about the proposal and to have the opportunity to provide public testimony. Number 2, planning staff support option number 2 and recommend that the planning board request additional public engagement and conduct a second public hearing on removing Mid-County Highway Extended from the master plan of highways and transitways. I will mention that the majority of the testimony focuses on the northern section, but if you look at certainly the letter from the county executive, he refers to all unbuilt portions, and that would include the southern section as well. So that might be something for your board to consider, whether you want to just tackle the primary concern or the entire facility.
Just to interrupt for 1 second there, Dave Anspacher for the record. The resolution that the council put forth in 2017, of course, is focused on the northern extension. So the northern extension is the part that essentially we don't really need to study from a traffic perspective. Removing the southern piece, that short piece south of Shady Grove Road, though, could require that we would need to do additional study.
Could you show on the map what you mean? I
Sure.
didn't understand, sorry. And tell us when you say you need a study, what a study you need.
Okay, so the northern unbuilt section of Mid-County Highway starts at Montgomery Village Avenue and continues all the way up to Ridge Road. And this is the one that passes through some of the areas that we heard about in our last public hearing, the Daystream, Dayspring, and Park Resources. There's another unbuilt section that is from Shady Grove Road, across Redland Road, and down to the ICC. This little section here would require a new ramp right on the ICC, which may be a little difficult to do. We do have some dedication reservations there already, so certainly it could be possible. But I'm just bringing that up, that there are some of the comments that address the entire unbuilt section. The majority of comments address this northern section.
It's right here.
All right.
Could you also tell us what is the position of DOT in all of these? Have you coordinated with them?
Yes, we have. DOT actually submitted one of the comments, and they specifically requested that M83 be removed from the master plan of highways and transitways, essentially the plan sections. When they concluded their study in 2015, I'm sorry, in 2017, there was some specific discussion that occurred at the council where essentially DOT's position was, we're now pursuing 355 BRT, and we feel like 355 BRT solves the M83 question as well as other benefits in other parts of Up County. And that was pretty much where they stopped, and they suspended the study.
Just to summarize, DOT's letter specifically is about the northern extension.
That's I was going to ask. So the southern part that is between Redland, that is not part of this removal request, correct?
Not from MCDOT.
But what about us? What are you asking us? Is it
Well,
the
I
whole
was saying,
thing?
I was pointing out that as the board, you have the option to do one or the other. We're not making a recommendation on that section, because as Dave said, we haven't studied it, but we have done master plans in that area, and we have assumed it's not there. We did the Shady Grove limited amendment. It was not assumed to be there, and it is not in WashCog's long-range plan either. So neither sections are in the long-range plan.
So let me just make it clear. In your options, specifically option 2, is that both sections included, or is it just the northern part?
Specifically, it's just the northern part.
Okay.
Sophia, can you go to the list of options again?
Sure.
And again, just to clarify, we've been asked to remove from
This?
the analysis that we conduct the northern section of Mid-County Highway Extended. So if that is removed, there's no impact on the analysis that we would conduct.
Yeah, I think it would be very beneficial if you specifically clarify that what sections you're talking about in these options, because I didn't realize that until you mentioned it now, and
So-
so it's not clear.
So we could specifically add consideration of Mid-County Highway Extended between Montgomery Village Avenue and Ridge Road.
Correct.
Yeah. So moving to the recommendation again, when we transmit this, I'm sorry, so basically we support option 2 as just restated. And that, so if the planning board supports this approach, planning staff will conduct one in-person and one virtual public meeting pretty much in late October. And in addition, as part, we will provide an e-letter, and as part of our regular coordination with community groups and civic associations, we will extend invitations to attend meetings throughout the month of October to discuss this proposed master plan action. This will culminate in a public hearing, which we've identified November 14th. And, basically, if approved, we would have to, advertise in the Washington Times at the latest early next week in order to make that deadline. We will update the webpage to provide information about this modified schedule, including an online feedback form. And we will provide and report in summary of the public meetings that occur as a result of this, along with the recommended action, and certainly that would be probably the major subject of our first work session. During this process, we will work with Montgomery County DOT, Maryland DOT, Montgomery Parks and other agencies to determine whether right-of-way dedication and easements need to be retained for other purposes. And those are our recommendations. And
Can I
certainly
just say something? Maybe I thought that Josh would say, I don't know if anybody look at it, that the places that it less impact, we have some kind of trail or bikeway, natural trail or something to do the connections. Have you ever looked at it to see if that's something beneficial?
Well, certainly that would be something for Montgomery Parks to address, and I did not invite anyone today.
Just to quickly add, though, there is a master plan bikeway
Yes.
along the alignment as well, the northern extension. We are running some analysis right now to determine what the value of the bikeway through the alignment provides. But certainly if a bikeway is to be retained or trail and maybe constructed at some point, there would be an impact, an environmental impact.
Yeah, I like to see that to be studied.
Yeah, agreed. And is the bikeway you're referring to also included in the bike master plan?
Yes,
So it wouldn't,
correct.
so it wouldn't be removed by removing the unbuilt section from this particular master plan?
The planning board can make whatever recommendation that it likes to make. If you do want to pursue this route, we would provide you the analysis as to how the bikeway network would be impacted if the bikeway was to be removed as well.
Okay.
And
got it.
also, I think it would be important that before we lose the right-of-way, we work with the Parks Department to see that if we could retain it for at least the bikeway or the trail, possible, whatever is possible. I don't want us to lose that opportunity for that. It's already there.
Yeah. And just for kind of educational purposes, so say hypothetically we move forward with option 2, let's just say, for the entire unbuilt stretch and not just the northern unbuilt stretch, hypothetically. We get to the end of the process and we recommend removing it. Council chooses to remove it as well. At what point do we then forfeit the right of way? Like, what's the process for actually forfeiting the right of way? Who is responsible for that? What analysis is done? Do we get involved at that stage too? Is it an immediate transfer, and who is it transferred to? Like, how does that process work? Because in terms of Commissioner Pedoeem's question, how proactive do we need to be about this bikeway question? Are there other opportunities post this process to re-engage in that before we just lose the right of way entirely?
So we would certainly come back to you with more information to address this question, but much of the dedication along the alignment has been done as a part of plan approvals. Those are still conditions of approval. So my understanding is that unless those conditions are changed, the dedication remains.
Yeah. And in many cases, if there's no need for that right away anymore, it would go through some kind of abandonment process, either through the board or through the council, or both. And likely in this case, it would go back to the council to evaluate.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
I have a comment question. So on the map you showed, there was a southern portion in red. And I was wondering, and then somewhere else in the presentation, there's a reference to Brink Road. I recall that we had a hearing in our meeting where citizens showed up and they were very concerned about the easement setbacks and redevelopment of Brink Road and with regards to the safety of the proposal to redevelop or expand the road at Brink Road. Is this plan incorporating the issues or taking into consideration the concerns of the citizens in the development of Brink Road?
The action to remove this road to folks who are advocates and residents along Brick Road may be seen as not helping. The position that a lot of the residents expressed is that Brink Road has become its own mid-county highway. and it's a 2-lane road. You know, I mean, it's Brink, it's also, you know, a bunch of connecting roads going through, you know, East Gaithersburg. And there's lots of truck traffic on that road, pretty high volumes. And
It's
it
not
was
truck traffic, it's farming equipment.
farming. And the road was never intended for the intensity of that use. That's the position that folks take. And so they put a lot of hopes in eventually having a highway so that that highway would fulfill many of the needs that people now use, you know, those roads to satisfy. There aren't a lot of east-west, parallel east-west routes that provide this connection. So that's, you know, that I would say from my reading of the comments for folks on Brink Road is that Mid-County Highway was seen as ultimately as some kind of traffic relief.
Just
That's not what I gleaned from the hearing, because I remember vividly one of the homeowners on Brink Road concerned with the increased volume of traffic and her inability to exit her property, and then also the increase on Brink Road, increase in traffic on Brink Road would increase the opportunity for collisions or accidents with farming equipment that have to make wide turns on the road and oftentimes encroach on the center divider of the road. And so, yeah, I'd be interested in more public comment with regards to Brink Road and citizens' concerns for their safety and other people who's traveling on the road safety, and more importantly, their current existing use of their property for farming, agricultural, and how it would negatively impact them. I mean, that's one of the concerns that you know, those citizens have, and they're correct in having that concern, and that their current use of their property for agricultural purposes and the safety for the people that work there and the people that live there is something that needs to be adequately addressed. And I think public hearings on this would be beneficial.
Certainly, and one of the things that we can do as part of this is coordinate with our partners at DOT and take a look at the Brink Road corridor, see how it fits within the county's Vision Zero action plan. There have been some corrective measures that have been taken along that road, and to see how effective have they been in reducing travel speeds and dissuading people from traveling on the road or even making the road safer. Certainly, you know, as part of this, there could be other things that need to be done. You know, sort of as a reminder, I was here before the board to do a mandatory referral for the Brink Road Bridge, and there was a lot of concern at that meeting as well. You know, I think the solution that we advanced was a good one, but there's certainly a lot more to do. But we definitely could do a little bit of a focused analysis to give you more information and bring DOT in to talk about the corridor in general.
Yeah, so let me just say that Commissioner Bartley, that's a great comment. I know that in the comments I read, this was the one from, was it Christelle Bivens that talked about the accidents on Brink Road, but that's great. That's part of this whole master plan of highways and transportation, all about, transitways is all about, and then we're hoping that those comments will be addressed as we talk through more and go through the work sessions with staff and with DOT, that will highlight that you know, where are they, where's DOT on this, have they been doing any studies on it, do they know about it, and hopefully we can talk about that during our work session. So, so there's a couple questions I have in terms of, yes, if we're going to make any recommendations on M83, we should have another public hearing. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention because that wasn't the focus before. Before it was more as a technical uh, changes to the master plan. It would be, I know that, you know, the northern portion has many more environmental issues than the southern area. It'd be nice to know what DOT's comment or input on should the southern area be in or out, and so I think this is part of the whole piece, but I know the northern area has these more environmental issues. So if I see that just studying the northern area, you estimate it'll be a couple of months, 3-month delay, or in addition, I don't call it delay, to if you were to also include the southern area, would that be about the same time frame, different time frame?
So we are required to do analysis of the impacts of master plans, the transportation adequacy metrics. So we would have to study the portion on the southern portion. We would,
It is worth noting
it would
that
take some time.
neither section is essentially in any master plan effectively. It's been excluded from a transportation perspective, so there, when we do our traffic analysis and look at adequacy, the assumption is that neither section exists.
Well, the resolution from the council, and again, maybe we can bring that up, I believe that specifically refers to the northern extension. So we don't have to study the northern extension. We do have to study the southern extension.
And how long would that take?
So, okay, I just want to get some clarity here. When Dave says we don't have to study the northern section, that's when we're doing an area master plan. I think what we're talking about here is doing some analysis and understanding of removing M83 from the master plan of highways and transitways and what that would mean.
What that would mean.
And
yeah.
so, and the question that we're getting from the board is the additional time that we've put into our schedule if we go with option 2, would there be even more additional time needed if option 2 included a review of the southern portion that's currently unbuilt? Or can that timeline work to do analysis of all of the unbuilt portion of M83?
And I think we would need to get back to you. We would need to talk to our colleagues at MCDOT. We would also need to do some internal analysis. I'm a little hesitant to give you a timeline on that. I would say probably about 2 months, but there's a queue of master plans. And so I think we would need to figure out how that would impact other master plan schedules.
Can we go back to the schedule? So we are already showing essentially a 2.5 month or so increase in time if we go with option 2 compared to what we've been thinking for this master plan. So when you say 2 months, we're on top of that, an additional 2 months, pushing this into summer?
I think the planning department could conduct the analysis that we're required to do for master plan adequacy on the southern portion, unbuilt portion of Mid-County Highway in about 2 months. However, that will have an implication on ongoing master plans. That might mean we delay the Clarksburg master plan by 2 months. We also haven't coordinated with our colleagues at MCDOT and would need to understand from their perspective what sort of study would be needed as well. And I would assume that could take more than 2 months.
And we also would need to coordinate with DOT and certainly the MTA, since the ICC is a toll facility. And they are
Well,
operators.
I suggest that right now we just stay within the scope of what you're presenting, because we don't want to delay this that much, because that is something else that could delay the project much more.
Can-
And it could always be added later on.
Can I ask, and I don't know if you'll be able to know the answer to this yet, but I assume that this analysis, so looking at the updated scope and schedule and the pieces where we would have to have this study done before we actually like move forward, I'm assuming we're looking primarily at like work sessions, right? Like we would prefer to have this done before our work session so we can talk about that openly and consider all those. So would it be possible to choose an option to include the southern portion, approve the first part of this schedule, and then once you have a better idea of how it kind of factors into the broader work program, we can come back. So we can basically give the approval to revise the scope of work and then come back maybe next week or the week, or however long you need to talk in more detail about the actual schedule.
I think we can do that. I think we would like to, correct, get your approval on modifying the scope of work and setting the public hearing date
Yes.
for November 14th. All of that can be done. We can then figure out the timeline for the work sessions.
And,
And we can come back.
Well, and that would give you time to talk to the agencies to see what is the heavy lift or no orders, it's not really worth it, meaning that it would, so yes, we are definitely, I feel that there's a definite for the northern section, but to look at see, as you're setting the hearing date and starting your piece, talk to the various agencies to understand their thoughts on the impact and other things, and then come back to us maybe by the time of the hearing, I don't know, and then we can decide on given we know the whole schedule for that. Is that what you're saying?
I would, if I were to make a motion now, I would move to revise the scope to include the entire northern and southern section, because what we're talking about is consideration. And so I think that allows for some of that flexibility that the chair is talking about.
Well, and I believe that, I think it's a good idea, because we need to have a public hearing, another public hearing for the southern section. If we don't include that option right now in our public hearing. So, but I don't want to jump the horse without coordinating with DOT to see how it is. We could approve option number 1 and give you the flexibility of if you want to include option 2 in this public hearing or have its own public hearing, depending on the schedule and everything that could happen. But I want to get this first one out of the way and not to be contingent.
So the reason I brought this up is because in your course, the county executive, Mark Elrich, specifically said all unbuilt portions of Mid-County Highway. So his recommendation, which was pretty strong, was to remove all of it. So I raise that as an issue because certainly as a planning board, you have the purview to make that decision, to make that call. DOT's position, I wish they were here. Unfortunately, we've been very efficient this morning. But I don't have their comment letter handy, but oftentimes on these issues, they do not deviate from the county executive's position. So more than likely, that would be their position as well, but I can't speak for them.
Okay, so this is what we put it all in at this time. You start your work, you have the hearing. We can always, regardless of what happened, we can still, at the end of the day, make a recommendation down the road to just take out the northern section or take out both
at the same time.
right?
Yeah.
So let's just move forward with the recommendation to move forward with the public hearing on that day, assuming right now it's looking into taking out both, right? Have the public hearing on that. You look into the study time, talking to some of the other people, and we'll make it, we'll keep moving forward.
I think all of that makes sense, and we can do that. The one thing that we might want to come back to you on is if there's an impact on the Clarksburg master plan schedule, that could delay things. So I think we would like to talk
Right.
internally a little bit about that.
And I also like us to, if there is somewhere, to say that we are not going to give up the right-of-way unless that all the needs for bikeway and everything is considered. So when we do the public hearing, I would like people to know that it could be a possibility that it's not going to be M83, but it could be a bikeway or trail. And if it is within the parks, it's within the parks, and that's a good thing. That should be shared in the public hearing.
Can you go back to your recommendation, please?
And if I could just clarify one more thing, I believe that the impact, the potential impact on the timing of the Clarksburg plan is really a staffing issue on our part, in being able to dedicate the staff to do the required analyses for all of these different plans.
And I think it is important for you to see which one is more priority, that which one to delay. So you use the judgment, bring it here with the recommendation that what is the priority? Probably the Clarksburg has priority until removing this one from the master plan, because that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. You can tell better.
So then, given we're looking at the whole, your recommendation stays, we're going, I mean, the recommendation is primarily to go with, I understand, option 2. And you don't have to, it's, and it could just say the unbuilt portion. I don't know what,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
The unbuilt portion, okay?
Yeah, so in that case, it sounds like we're all on the same page. I'll go ahead and move that we support option 2, the recommendation to modify the scope to consider the removal of Mid-County Highway Extended, both northern and southern, to consider both northern and southern, with additional time to do the various things that you've mentioned, and we can talk more about the specific schedule at a later time.
And talk about the bikeway.
Well, yeah, what goes on in these
In the
dedicated,
right-of-way.
in the right-of-way?
And future sessions, future work sessions to include conversation around the right-of-way and the bikeway.
Yep, understood.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then I think that's our final item for the afternoon, and this will conclude our board meeting. And as you can say, happy Rosh Hashanah.